Good. So I'm going to jump into those in a moment. Hey, if you have any great question ideas or something that's troubling you, working on you, drop me a line. I'd love to include that on a future Q&A session. Just check out on my website, if you will, or my YouTube channel. I've got a backlog of, I think, a few hundred questions we've done there and lots of other great videos. So if you're interested in finding out about my ministry, churches I lead, online ministry, or my traveling itinerant ministry, all those details are below on my website. Boom. Okay, let me tackle the controversial one first anyway. So somebody's asked me, what do you think about conspiracy theories? Right, I want to give a really clear disclaimer. Right, just 2 points on this. Number one, if you're triggered by something I say here, well, finish the phrase kind of thing. Here's my point. Why are you triggered by it would be worth thinking. Secondly, I would say this, if you're listening to this and you're like, I'm going to write to Graham and make a comment, I'd love to hear your comments on this, but if you can actually listen through to the end and actually reference a point. If you're going to disagree with me, put the timestamp. Say, Graham, I disagree with what you said at 2 minutes 37 or whatever. Don't just say something that I never even said, because here's what usually happens in my experience, especially in the last 5 years or so where I live. Some people hear the word conspiracy theory and they're immediately triggered by it. And they get this burning desire within them to write something that goes like this. But some conspiracy theories are true, Graham. And, not everything's a conspiracy theory. And what if they are true? And so, great, let's talk about that. But what is a conspiracy theory? Firstly, it's, usually the idea that there is a plot, there is a conspiracy, there is a gathering, usually of secret people with nefarious purposes, and that behind what we see, there's a whole other, Machiavellian plot and plan and scheme going on to prevent something. So, there have been many over time, maybe the idea that we didn't land on the moon in 1969, that it was a hoax. Yeah, it took place in a TV studio. And something like that is actually, it's a little bit outdated now, but it was actually something like that was the perfect conspiracy theory, because number one, it's such a outlandish, crazy thing that Neil Armstrong and NASA did by putting man on the moon. Secondly, it actually gets very hard to verify. Now, science is changing some of that, but for many years, nobody could actually go to the moon and check, and there were obviously a very small amount of people. So things like that, who shot Kennedy, blah, 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 blah. I think with things like COVID, Trump elections, lots of these different things, you'll see all sorts of conspiracies flying about. Now again, let me go back to that point. I think that all these budding people want to make, but some of them are true. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe, if in the scheme of things, if people keep looking at situations, some conspiracy theories will be true. But I'd lovingly suggest to you that's a little bit of a useless thing to say, because some of them aren't true. So if we're going to present the idea that because some conspiracy theories are true, we should then put value on ones which are not true, or we should just give up on Jesus and give up on truth, because that's utterly ridiculous. What we actually need to do is to be able to parse and separate what's true and what's not true. So what can I begin to say about that? I think it's a really interesting thought, and one that frankly most people haven't had, that let me say this really clearly, only God knows what's true. Only God sees all the truth and knows every single thing. And even when people are completely honest about themselves, we don't even know the truth about our own hearts at times. So nobody actually has the whole story on anything. I really mean that. How do we actually know what's true? And only God really knows what's completely true in that. I think the danger is, and again, this is amplified by social media, the danger is we get a little bit of information that's skewed through a certain point of view. Now, this can be true on both sides of any conspiracy. Most of the news, I don't know any objective news sites. Usually there's some kind of agenda, some sort of position they're taking that's not that hard to defend, to define, to uncover, if you will. So it's really hard to see anything. I think here's the real danger with conspiracy theories. The danger is the fact that when there are known unknowns, when there are things that we don't know, we assume that we know them. And I think that's the danger. And the danger, it appeals to our pride as well. So I'd have no problem if somebody came to me and said, hey, I think, if you talked about the origins of COVID, the lab theory, is that a conspiracy theory? I mean, to me, it's not. I think it's actually a pretty compelling argument. I'm not 100% convinced on that, but I'm convinced enough by many serious people who've looked into that. But I don't know. I wasn't there. I've never been there. And with all of these things, the danger is pride. The danger is if I come to you and I say, hello, my name's Graham. I know something that you don't know. I'm clued in a way you're not clued in. If I come to you and say, hello, my name's Graham, I've got inside information here. I've got the inside track. I've got the inside scoop. I know what's going on. What that could be true. But you know what? It's incredibly more likely that I've actually got a pride problem and I'm trying to feed my pride with something like that. Now, I could believe something that's actually true. Okay, I could believe I've found the conspiracy, I've found the thing, and I may actually be right, but the problem is our pride tends to blind us. And the danger with all of this is whenever we look at something, again, let me choose something really innocuous, really, that's not going to press people's buttons in that way. There was a time, probably about 15 years ago, when I looked at some of these documentaries about the moon landings. And one of them was broadcast on Fox, the Fox channel. So, it wasn't some weird thing on the internet. It was being put out there. And at the time, I thought yeah, wow. I'd watch a few of these things. And after a while, man, there's real problems with this story. Look at some of these things don't add up. And I would be, I became semi-convinced that was true. Now, over time, I've looked more and more, seen the other side of that story, and actually seen the evidence. Now we have a really amazing telescopes and ways, just our digital photography's increased. We can see every moon landing site and the marks left and even the objects left. And some of them, the science we've had in the last 5 to 10 years has actually debunked a lot of those things. But here's the point. If I'm into a conspiracy theory, if I've drank the Kool-Aid, so to speak, I'm not mocking, but if I've decided we did not land on the moon, the danger is I become a partisan of that point of view, and I tend to filter and triage and separate out the information that comes in. And when something that comes that disagrees with that, I want to sort of push that out. And when confirmation bias happens, when somebody gives me something which feeds into what I want to believe, I will tend to listen to that. And after a while, especially with something like social media, the bottom line with all social media algorithms is they will show you things that provoke a response, and they'll show you things that keep you coming back for more. So if they find that you will click on links, if their algorithm finds you like reading, Graham likes reading about the moon land. I believe we landed on the moon, don't worry about it. Giving an example. If Facebook, Meta, Instagram, all of these kind of TikTok, these things, they're a great algorithm in the sky, decides, oh, Graham likes hearing about this. It will show me more and more and more and more and more. And after a while, I can't believe that people don't buy into this stuff. How can they, the other, how can they be so deceived? And the danger is somebody's actually playing me like a fiddle and playing into my pride. So what do we do with conspiracy theories? I can't think of any particular one right now, but I'm sure, yes, many of them are true. I think if Neil Armstrong would have come out in public before he died and said, hey, my bad, it was a fake, we did this in a TV studio, wow, we would have all had to recalibrate a whole bunch of things. I don't believe that. But so are the conspiracy theories that turn out to be true? Yes. Are the conspiracy theories where we're looking, frankly, at a doubtful situation about something that there are real questions about? Like I would look at some of the origins of COVID that way, but we don't yet have complete information. or that some of the people who should be giving us complete information aren't really forthcoming in the way they should be. And I think we should hold that ambiguity, that tension between us and say, yeah, there's nothing wrong in saying I'm interested in this subject and I think this could be true, but it might not be true. And I don't know the whole story, and have that thing that says what I'm going to do is not follow this conspiracy theory or be against this theory. I'm for truth. Yeah, come on, let me say that again. I am for truth. There's a great passage in Joshua where Joshua meets a character called the angel of the Lord. It's interesting because Joshua worships him and the angel lets Joshua worship him, which leads many theologians to believe it was a Christophany, a pre-Christ appearing of Jesus. And Joshua meets this angel, if you will, or Jesus, and says, are you for us or against us? And the angel replies to Joshua, neither. He says, I'm the boss. You can be for me, but I'm neither for you or against you. And so often when we look at things like conspiracies, like politicians, political parties, all of these things, God is neither for this one or against this one. God is for truth. And he wants the church to be in that way, where we don't become partisan buy-ins of this group or that group or another group. Rather, that we look at everything through the lens of truth. So I think if absolutely you know for a fact something is a conspiracy that is real, well, awesome. I have no problem at all with that. I would have a problem though. What I see is people who really believe in what we're going to call a conspiracy here, are very vocal about it. And then when somebody says, yeah, what about this evidence? What about that? Again, they get triggered, they get angry, they get dismissive, they attack other people. And to me, that is like a poker tell. It's a sign that, oh, okay, this person actually, they've just bought into another religion. It doesn't matter anymore what truth is or what truth is not. They've bought into this thing. Okay, let me give you one last thought on this as well. And I really mean this, and I'd encourage some people I know to pray about this one. I think the danger is when we're in pride and we frankly give ourselves over to another religion. I actually believe at times there's a demonic seduction and power that goes behind these things. I've seen some of that recently with some of the QAnon stuff that is just pure evil. Now, what's going to happen is some Christian who's fallen into that will say, yeah, but Graham, there's lots of good in it. And I have no doubt there's lots of good in it, but there's lots of evil in it as well. And the danger is when we begin to look at something and say, I'm for this, and I just kind of wink at the evil in it and I look at the good, and we found a new religion. And at times, literally, I think like a demonic power can be operating in our lives in those things. I have a friend who once got into the flat earth theory. I want to be really honest. I'd never believe that. Sitting here in the UK in 2022 talking about a flat earth, it seems utterly ridiculous to me. I can't think of one. But it's analogous. It's a great example of how powerful these things really can be. Because here's what happens. If you go down that rabbit hole and you keep... Again, the algorithm, so to speak, YouTube, all these things keep showing you things that reinforce your belief and keep feeding into, legitimate doubts about the transparency of the government and all these kind of things. There's a time when, again, our pride kicks in and Satan has this inroad in our life, and it can lead people to utter destruction. And, it is a fake gospel in a way. Actually has nothing to do with the fact that the earth is flat, the earth is round, okay? But it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with us believing in something other than God. And I really want you to get that. Anytime you believe in anything other than the Lord Jesus Christ, there's a very big danger you've found a new idol to add to your team. And God's not bothered about pieces of wood or stone, but there's a demonic power that's behind those things. So let me sum that up. What do I think about conspiracy theories? Yeah, I think it's not wrong to look at anything. Who shot Kennedy? Yeah, where did COVID come from? Look at the evidence for these things and to weigh them up, but be open to people from outside of your camp to weigh into that as well. It says in Proverbs that every story seems true until you hear the other side of it. And I think maturity actually with some of these things that are not scriptural truths is to look at them and say, like, God, lead me into truth. Show me this. I'm passionate about this. Maybe I've got an opinion here. There's another opinion there. But I want to be a follower of truth, not a follower of some theory. Now, again, if you disagree on anything specific, man up. Put a time reference there, and I'll reply to you. I'd love to hear from you there. But I don't want, not looking for cliches or, reposts of something else going on there. Boom. Let me move on here.